It's 1:45. We'll get this budget hearing started. It's for the Bureau of Treasury. Councilor Green, joined by Councilor Hogan, Councilor Caldwell, Councilor Gathers, Councilor Peniagua, Councilor Allen, Councilor Schultz. So we'll turn it over to you guys. You can introduce yourselves and take us through the budget.
Thank you. I'm Brad O'Connor, Commissioner of Finance.
Veronica Voss, Deputy Commissioner of Finance.
So Vicki is in charge of the City Payment Center, also called the Treasury. We'd have to check in with Joe Barry on what it's officially called these days. Seems like it's officially called both, but we're talking about both and the same thing. So City Payment Center is the group of employees downstairs that handles all of the incoming money, and it is a growing function as we try to centralize some of these financial activities, trying to get all of the money coming into City Hall, being monitored by City Hall, and so we are progressing in that centralization and oversight of the incoming money. The main activities of the City Payment Center are billing and collecting taxes, water bills, fines and fees, parking tickets, and an expanding role of the City Payment Center is billing and collecting really all other bills that come out of the city. A lot of them coming out of the Codes Department. We've got cleanup and board up bills that are billed out of CPC. DPW illegal set-outs are being billed out of CPC. Pilots and shelter payments, and increasingly what I would call everything else. You know, those are the kind of the high volume recurring bills, but we've also got things like police overtime billing, fire department emergency response, a lot of the specialized services that we're providing and billing for. Those are all coming out of CPC. So, you know, a lot of what they do, they've been doing for 175 years, and it's continually evolving into what it is today. Any questions, I guess, before we go on to the numbers of what it is CPC does?
So Brad, so like if the police department works a special event, you know, they contract through the police department, Jazz Fest, something like that, the billing comes out of your department? Now it does. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, and that's within the last year, right?
Yeah. Basically, it's, you know, thinking that the department should be able to focus on what they do best, like policing and fire protection and all that, and then they just send us over the information. We bill it and follow up on those bills to make
Parks
sure
department fees?
Yep. Well, depends on which fees you're talking about. Like if somebody goes to the skating rink, it pays their entry fee. That's managed by the Parks
permit
department.
fees. Field permit fees?
Those go through us eventually. Usually what will happen is they will submit that with a check, and then we'll do a cash report to allocate that to the Parks Department. But sometimes they're paid at Parks, and then they would deposit it.
Paid with checks or cash?
I would assume checks. I don't know. I know that they do collect some monies. I'd have to check with Julie.
Cash? I mean, we take cash downstairs.
Oh, absolutely, sure.
In any of these outlying departments, do we take cash?
I don't believe that they take cash for invoices, although I can't speak to like the different, you know, like if you have like a block party fee or something, I can check with Julie and verify that.
That's probably a good idea.
I don't think they do, but I will verify.
The times that I have used those services, they've always requested either by card or check.
Well, that's good.
I know that they have the ability to take invoice cloud payments, which is by card.
We are taking cash at places like skating rinks,
I'm
golf courses,
talking
things
about
like that.
more or less event type deals or permits or something like that. Not so much like paying cash to get on the ice rink with your kid, you know.
Easier to track if there's either a check or a card.
That is easier to check, you're right. When it's cash, it isn't so easy to check.
Yeah. So we aren't billing and collecting everything yet. Some of them, you know, we're not going to have somebody stationed at the ice rink. It just doesn't make sense. But we are trying to, anything that gets mailed out of a city department, that probably makes more sense for it to be mailed out of City Payment Center. Those types of bills and collections, we want to all
Let me ask
get
just
all under
one more
roof.
question. Just so, are those people that are in charge at the ice rink, for instance, and they're taking cash, do we have like a best practices type training for them at all from the finance department, or is it just like the Parks Department says, take the cash and put it in the box? And
Yeah, finance isn't involved in that, so that's the Parks Department. Any other questions?
No, that's good.
So personnel details, so we are budgeting 20 positions for fiscal year '24. That's up 1 from last year. That added position is a delinquent collections person, which we've never had at the city. You know, we've got individuals in CPC who will call and try to collect old accounts, but it's a part-time kind of secondary job, or has been in the past, and we wanted to get somebody in there to really focus on this. We found the volume of bills that go out, it's hard to track what's outstanding, what isn't, and a lot of times people have an outstanding bill that they didn't even know they had, and if we've got somebody that just picks up the phone and calls them, reaches out to them, we get those paid a lot quicker. So we've already seen an increase in collections since that individual was hired, which was how long ago, Vicki? October. So it's, you know, with $350 million of incoming money, it's something we should have been tracking a little better, and now we've got somebody doing that full time.
Does that include taxes as well?
Yes, and I was just going to say, with the new rule phase coming out from NBD, we expect to be inundated with tax trust applications, because, you know, people are going to be told that their properties are going to be seized, so obviously they're going to want to ameliorate that somehow, and really the only way we have to offer is by tax trust. It is a time-consuming process to do the research. There's a lot of different programs that you have to go into to get all the answers. There's a new process where we have to go in front of a committee for some of the tax trusts. So we were forward thinking, and that's a lot of what this person is going to be doing, is managing that process for the 900 plus applicants we're going to get.
And the hope is really to have a better handle on all of our delinquent accounts, and it's never going to go down to zero, but I think with a little bit of effort we can increase our collections quite a bit. So what that translates to on the actual budget, you'll see personal services. We are up slightly from last year's budget, about $56,000. That's that one individual. Office equipment, we had a minor renovation down in CPC last year that we don't have this year, we're not budgeting for this year. The biggest change you're going to see is in contractual and other expenses, a decrease in professional services. This line largely has been the fee that we pay to what do we pay it to? Nope.
Nope. Paylock.
Paylock, sorry. So Paylock is the booting company. We pay them every time they boot. When we talk to them, they said, you're one of the only municipalities that does that. Usually the parking violator pays that fee. And we said, well, you know, that makes sense. And so we don't have that included. That was about $200,000 that we're taking out of the budget. We're going to submit legislation to change that to move the responsibility of the booting fee over to the parker. But for now, that is not included in the budget.
And I'm preparing legislation for an amendment to the ordinance to approve the Paylock contract so that we can amend that contract so that the fees are not paid by the city, but instead are paid by the actual person who is the registered owner and who got the parking tickets in the first place.
How much revenue do we get from the parking tickets and fees and things like that?
In 2022, well, I have it as on a calendar year, it was 3.3 million.
How much was that?
3.3 million.
3.3.
We're budgeting about 3.7 million in fiscal '24.
So right now, when somebody has a boot and they go online to pay to release it,
They get charged $50, and then the city pays a percentage which equals up to about $111 on average per boot. So that means my property, my taxes, your taxes, your taxes are going to pay this person's booting fees. So even though it will be an additional inconvenience for the person who gets booted, that's really the person who needs to pay it. It shouldn't be everybody else paying their parking. Right? So that's the proposal. That's what we're looking to do.
All right. Other questions? Anything? No?
You got nothing for us? We're ready. Come on.
Okay, so we'll close that hearing. Are you guys, do you have anyone else coming different for the next one, or is it all the same people?
Next